Karri Bowman, welcome to the Move Your DNA podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Katy.
So people who've been listening to this podcast for a long time really know how much I love dynamic environments. My house, which is when my kids were younger, sort of had a jungle gym vibe, made a lot of headlines. I did a lot of press on the setup that we had created. I got into dynamic homes and dynamic spaces because of my love for movement and natural movement and wanting to make sure that was available to not only my kids, but to us, having a pretty normal setup around that dynamic setup, meaning like we still needed to work on computers. We still had sort of sedentarism that I was trying to break up. But how did you get into dynamic spaces and create smart playrooms? Like, how did that happen?
It happened because, it all goes back to the teacher I had in fifth grade. And he really dramatically changed the way I thought about myself, my confidence, and honestly, how I was as a student. And he turned me on to so many creative, fun ways to learn. And from that, I actually really wanted to be that teacher for everybody else. And my focus since I was a young child has really been on supporting kids on their emotional development, and that's really my mission, and as a result, I was an incredible babysitter for many, many years. I went right into teaching after I got my college degree. Soon after that, I got a master's degree, and I taught in the classroom for many years, as well as being a camp director. And, and eventually from the classroom, I made my way over to intentionally designing these spaces in playrooms. But my mission has always been the same. It is to support kids emotionally. And how do we do that? And so, obviously, one of the things that I've learned both as a child and then also as a teacher, as a mom, and now as a designer is that movement is honestly quintessential to health and wholeness and wellness in everybody, but definitely in children. And so my focus has been to create these amazing spaces that are focused on specific growth in kids. And it really depends on their ages and where the home is or where it's located. And so that's my background. It's really what I do, and that's it.
So your fifth grade teacher, would you say that they were trying to harness the concept of movement or the concept of play? Do you see a difference between play and movement in when you're creating a space?
No, I see it all under the same umbrella, really. I think for me, when I'm designing spaces, I'm really thinking about the kids' needs. Now, obviously, we get into some specific needs if they have sensory processing disorders, if they are on the autistic spectrum, if they are addicted to their screens, if they, have fine motor issues, whatever it is, I try to design intentional spaces for that. But yes, it was really when I started to do active play specific for indoors that was really a game changer and kind of what I'm known for as far as designing. But I've always designed incredible performance areas, art areas, building areas, because I do try to harness the creative movement and play in my space. But ultimately, my job is to do what my clients would like me to do. And we kind of come to a collaboration on the design after I learn more about the kids in the space.
I love that you said you were giving a list of who you might be designing for. I have a new book coming out that I wrote with a psychologist. I know I should exercise, but dot dot dot, and there's a whole section around people who are perceiving movement barriers to be related to their family, and a big one was I can't get my kids off the technology to be able to move, and teenagers. There's a few questions in there. And one of my suggestions, because I've had to use it myself, is to make sure there are dynamic features within the home. I was known for the monkey bars when our children were little, but that's not really what they need anymore. But specifically because that draw to, like, when you come home, when a kid comes home after being home when a kid comes home after a day of being at school, for example, to go to a place where they can be challenged, um, win at something, that feeling of accomplishment, I think video games can easily get you a lot of those pieces. So you want to boot your kids off of those after a certain amount of time, but then there's nothing left in the home that they can be working on this very natural tendency to challenge themselves, to accomplish something. How would you design? I mean, this is almost like asking you for like quick advice for all the listeners out there. Like if you could add one, I know what I've added, but what would you add to every home that would be a real minimal design change that might meet, let's say, an older kid? So we're looking at like 12, 13, 14 or older. Like what would be something to add?
That's a great question. You know what I would do? Because if I'm thinking about all the playrooms, one of the things I always do is obviously to have some sort of soft landing or mat there, because sometimes that just makes people want to do cartwheels right off the bat or even roll down a yoga mat. So think about just a soft, but not too soft, kind of like a pressed foam mat. I think that invites people to all of a sudden start to do a different activity. And I would support the ceiling or put a variety of hooks on the ceiling. And that's really it. And the reason why I say that's it is because the interest, as you mentioned, will change with the kids over the years. And there isn't one item that I could hang from a ceiling and say it is good for a toddler and a 15-year-old. The goal is to have a space that's flexible and can grow with your kids' interest, whether it is something on the floor, a little bit of hand weights, whether it is something hanging from the ceiling. You could try a sensory swing or a yoga hammock or a punching bag. Um, or, later you could do a pull-up bar. I do a lot of that in teen spaces, but if you're thinking about long term, have a mat that's welcoming, maybe a couple other retail props that your child is interested in, and then have some support up here so you can change it. I know for my own kids, I actually have a one-car garage, and I had really used all leftover things from other projects, and I didn't give a lot of thought to it, but it turned out to be this amazing space. And it's still, I go out there and do yoga all the time because I build, even though I have had monkey bars like you, and my kids no longer use those as well, they don't take up any space. And I have other hooks for things we're interested, the TRXs or anything else we're doing, even a yoga hammock I still use. But the key is to have, I think, the flexibility of the space and just to be in tune with what your kids are interested in. And I'm a firm believer, really, from my education background, is what kids see is what they're going to do. So have it be easily accessible, put it out. If you put out a bowl of fruit, most likely they're going to take the fruit. If you put out a bowl of cookies and candy, they're going to take the cookies and candy. Kids aren't that complicated, but it needs to be thoughtful and it needs to be right out there for them. And you want your kids ultimately to get into a routine, and that's my teacher background as well. Healthy routines from when they're younger that involve movement in their day. And I say parents are the role model. So do different things after school. Walk with your kids home. They always say walking to school and walking home from school is one of the best things that you can do for your child's brains. Biking to school, getting them that exercise. So start as a family when they're little, and you'll find that young bodies and minds start to crave that exercise. And that's ultimately what you want to try to foster.
Right, and I just for everyone out there listening who thinks, "I don't have a playroom, I don't have an extra garage, I don't have any of those things either," and I have just made over our living room. Our living room, like our living room because really it's the same thing. If the equipment is not out, I'm not gonna use it either, and when kids get into this, I would say 13 and 14, not all children for sure, but, if they're in sports or athletics or they're just interested in maybe, like, working out or this idea of physical training, put the pieces there and it's okay. I mean, this is where I need to talk to you. My house doesn't look that stylish or beautiful. It is sort of like a clump of exercise toys in the living room. So I definitely could use your services of making it more beautiful, but I want to talk to you about the two things that you do because one thing is, and I think maybe our listeners are already aware of this, is you have a company that just sells kind of ready to install monkey bars. Tell me about the few things that you have, or I mean, you don't have to be few, all the things that you have. And then I want to talk to you about this concept of designing.
Perfect. First, I like to say everything comes from really a functional standpoint. So it doesn't really matter what the surroundings are. My design business, because I do focus on making it kind of sophisticated and goes with the kids and creating a space, that's great. You can do that. But the store, as you mentioned, are things that I've curated over the past 10 to 15 years of active products that I couldn't find just in the United States, to be honest. Things that, a lot of things that I was looking for these active spaces in these areas for homes were either really cheap, really thin, like they're thin ropes on Amazon. You can't even hold on to it, and they don't really even hold the kids. So there's always gonna be things that are inexpensive and kinda poorly made, but I couldn't find anything in the active sensory arena that met my qualifications, which was looking for eco-friendly, beautifully made with, like, the resources and the materials that are gonna last for a good amount of time, and that is super functional, as well. So, I have curated from a variety of different vendors and, like, the ropes and stuff and, the monkey bars, and then we have rock wall holds. Some of the products in my store, I'm really proud to say that I've actually designed them myself, like the rock wall holds. I actually worked with the rock wall manufacturer to design an exclusive set for my store, which does combine kind of what I'm looking to sell, which are things that are beautiful and things that are really well made in colors that I think are just automatically appealing to children. And you don't have to get all ugly kind of primary colors, that there's other options for you. So I wanted to make that really easy for families to find some gray things, some beige things. I got a lot of people that want really specific bright, bold colors like a purple or a teal. That was impossible to find. I get a lot of people that wanted the soft gray to go with their home or like a soft beige. Again, impossible to find. So even a clean white was hard to find, but there was a lot of kind of ugly blues and ugly greens out there that I used in the beginning, and then I thought there's gotta be something out there. So I've really made it my own mission to do both of those for all the products, and like I said, I have some exclusive things on there that I've helped create and design for manufacturers, and then I have other things that I'm just reselling or they're allowing me to choose the colors and resell from manufacturers. So I'm really, really proud of the products that I found because ultimately I want you, Katie, to have what you want for your kids and what's specific to your home with the colors that you want. And that's what I tried to make available to everyone because that's what I couldn't find when I started looking for other families.
And then so then you have a design service. So you what is the process of you designing a space? Do you have to go to that space physically? Do people send you pictures of the space? Like how does your creativity work there?
That's a great question. So I have 2 options. I have a full service design option, which is really working exclusively with me. I have a ton of clients, so many inquiries now. Really proud of how my small business has bloomed into a very, appealing and people really want to work with me. So I have sort of an exclusive option for some people that I can do the designing from the beginning of when we do a kickoff meeting to brainstorming all the way to when the last item's installed. And I do that both locally around New York where I live, but I also do it around the country. And I've also gone international. So that is one service. And for those, you have to sort of reach out to me and we sort of set up a design process that's exclusive to you and we figure out the fees and everything. Another option, which is really in the middle, I was very adamant about making different price points for different people, how they want to use our expertise. And this is a e-design option. And there's a climbing e-design option, which is done completely virtual. And I've trained and hired a team of uh, teachers who all have master's degrees because that is, what I required in order to design the space. And you can buy it online right on our website. And then after that, we have an automated portal. Well, then we send you a questionnaire And we ask a ton of questions. Everything about, again, is the kids, the families, and the space. What colors you like, what colors you don't. What are your kids' needs? What are they interested in? What do you hate in your space? What do you want in your space? And we kind of curate all that. And then we have a very intense design process where we give you the deliverables are a shopping list with where everything is linked. You can buy it or not, but we link everything, colors, murals, things on the floor, everything on the wall. If you think about it, we're not just designing things on the floor. We have 6 walls we're working with, ceilings, walls. There's so much. It's much different than a table and chairs. It's a lot. And then we also have a 3D renderist who does this space so you see exactly how the colors work, where everything goes. And then we have someone do conceptual black and white drawings, which literally tells you, here's the monkey bar. It's 8 inches off the wall. The rock wall holds are here. The sensory swing is 15 inches from that. It's a bird's eye view of where everything goes with the equipment. So it takes our team. It's an intensive process. It's very detail focused. Everything is about how the kids are moving through the space, and the measurements honestly are the key to the success as far as the layout goes. And again, thinking about it can be changed later. So sometimes we'll include other products that maybe your 12-year-old's going to be interested in this. And again, you don't have to put everything up, but this is what we're suggesting for now and for later. So people are super appreciative of our time and effort in that. And that is right for some families who the store, they go there and they're kind of overwhelmed. They don't really know what their kids would be interested in. They don't want to buy things and get a contractor support it and not really know where it goes. And then I have other people who know exactly what they want. They just want the monkey bars, a rope, they're done, you know. So I've really tried to make it my mission to provide options based on budget, based on preferences. And so ultimately, again, you can get our expertise and find what you need.
So important, the idea of it being flexible or adjustable with time, because I think of all of the backyard swing sets that sit and I just have this visual and thought, if instead it was just maybe the bars and the legs and the hooks, and then you could change it, when your kids are younger, it's got these things on it and those pop off, and then now they're middle age and now you've got, a climbing rope, and in the fact that it is adjustable is so much more eco-friendly, it's more cost efficient, and it's more effective. So for all of you out there, and I definitely have made those mistakes of going like, let's install this. And now it is, and also kids like novelty. People like novelty, humans like novelty. And so I think, I bought a little mini rebounder at a garage sale, and I put that out, and that has become like an amazing piece. But after a while, I just take it away. I just put it away and put something else out, and then I bring it out, next month, and it's a brand new again. They start this whole new dating relationship. They're so excited about. So move things around. Get the things with the carabiners and the hooks so you can swap and keep that fresh engagement to keep the play happening. Because an element, I think, of play and movement is that novelty.
I agree. Try something different and do it. It's just like we always said as teachers, rotating the toys, and same with parents, like have things coming in and out. But if it's always out, like you said, it just loses the novelty. There might be some things you always want out, but you can switch out with the internal parts, or like you said, just switch it all out. But ultimately, right, sort of committing to it, thinking about what it is, having sort of the backbone, I think is helpful. Like you said, it's hard to, call a handyman and get someone over all the time to like put another hook up, or like then you have to go to Home Depot to get the right carabiner. Think through kind of just the framework of it. Get a good mat, like I said, or something that's inviting on the floor that you can use. It could be a foldable mat, whatever works in your space. Think about the framework of what you might want to hang and where those distances are. And then, like I said, you're kind of done, and change everything out for the kids. And even teenagers, I agree, like things to be different and sort of, things that are brand new. We had like a couple gymnasts, and, I remember I was like, oh, get a Lyra. I'm always research. I never heard of a Lyra, even when
What is that? I don't know what a lyra is. What's a lyra?
it's a metal, you hook it up to the ceiling. It's actually like almost like something they would use at Cirque du Soleil. It's a hard ring, a big ring that you can put your body in. And of course, I always say to the parents, go to YouTube. You can learn how to use a wall ladder, a lyra, a yoga hammock, all these things that are kind of staples. And sometimes the kids just don't know how to use it, kind of going back to what you said, of using it in different ways. Get your kids, this is a good use of YouTube and videos. Find out other ways. Let them watch some things and they're gonna be like, oh my God, I want to try that. There's so a yoga hammock too. There's thousands of different things you can do in there, but how would you know unless you kind of research it as your kids get older? Again, to invite them in to use it in a different way. That's also a good idea. But yeah, Lyra is really cool.
And we have a good family community. It's nice to swap things sometimes, so not everyone doesn't have to buy all the things. You know, it's like, oh, we're done with our this hanging thing. You want to use it for a while, and so we've got a few families who all have. Some have built-in monkey bars down the hallways, and just different. And someone put in rings, like giant rings in series to do that like cool brachiation. It's just fun to see what people come up with. Um, okay, so here's a question for you. Could you tell me your favorite space that you developed, and then maybe one that did not turn out, or like some, I'm not gonna use the word disaster, but just something where it was a learning moment for you and your team?
I think everything comes with experience. So I'm going to have to think back. There's plenty of bloopers over the, over the years, but I'll come back to that. I think my favorite space was one I did recently for a family here in Westchester, New York. And, you know, I am a fan of neutrals in general. It just makes my heart sing. And I, over the years, I sort of learned the different types of woods and textures. And, you know, I would say in the beginning, I didn't even know what a stain was. And we did this most incredible playhouse out of white oak. And it was just spectacular. And we took basically, it was this awkward 6 feet of just weird area with a window that sort of went outside. It backed up to a closet there. We were able to turn that into the longest and the most beautiful playhouse. But one of the things we did too was knowing the kids were going to outgrow, we created, because it was so long, I think it was 20 or 25 feet. And again, it wasn't coming out into the space. It was this weird nook. So why not turn it into a playhouse? And we turned the upstairs into a huge sleeping loft. And we just got little mattresses and little reading lights. So as they get older with teens, I still think teens love little nooks and cozy spots that they could use that. So that was amazing. Of course, we also put a light bright in there, which was just really cool. And I was able to design like a custom tinkering station, which I loved. And I did a cool desk with actually slide out like trays that the kids could keep their Legos in and then come back. So it was like this whole creative area. One of the things I find so hard is how do I save the things that are in process when kids are doing STEM activities or even Legos without it getting ruined. This was a family of 4 kids. So how do you kind of protect your ongoing things? But again, encouraging them to come back to it. Because I think that's where real creativity can happen as well. So that was really cool. Then we had a cool climbing area as well. So that was probably one of my favorites because of the colors, the wood, the aesthetics, and just the different creative zones that I was really able to give my expertise to. And I felt like it really did engage the kids in creative, active movement and play. So that was really great. I'm trying to think back to some bloopers. Of course, there were always things because I've always been installing things and supporting things. I don't have any contractors that work for me. So I am always contracting out, and really the client is contracting with the licensed contractors. I would say just, I don't know if I have one specific, but of course, ordering things without getting the contractor's approval, things that don't fit, that are the wrong size. I mean, these are expensive mistakes on my part of, I have a basement that definitely has monkey bars, mats that didn't fit, a whole bunch of other
You
things.
have all the bloopers in your
I have all
basement.
the bloopers. And like I said, I made my garage and from the bloopers. You know, it's interesting. I had these 2, I didn't like the color yellow that we used. We did these yellow rock wall panels. And there were 2 left over because probably measured incorrectly or whatever. Anyway, I painted them white, and the manufacturers always say, don't paint it. We don't recommend that. You know, so many people don't want the liability of saying, I painted it and they've been in my garage for probably 8 to 10 years. No paint has fallen off. And so, like you, I try to be eco-friendly, use things, suggest only things that I really think are right for the space. And so those are probably a couple expensive construction bloopers.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's helpful. It's just to remember, yes, measuring. Anyone who's ever tried to build anything, measure, 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 measure 3 times and then measure one more time after that.
Exactly, and I always say to people, whoever's installing it has to measure for you. That's the key. Don't even if you have a handyman, you're just gonna put something into existing studs, I say, whoever how do you even know you can put them up there? So you have to have someone saying, "You can do this. Get 6. This is where I can do it." If they're opening the ceiling, obviously, then they can put it somewhere else, but whoever is installing your items, have them tell you the measurements and make sure it's all okayed before you buy anything.
Yeah, my husband and I installed our own wood burning stove into our place, and like we measured, like we read everything, and then the day, we bought everything, and we had made made our mat, and got it all fireproof, and then the expert comes in. It's like, oh yeah, but then there's also this one thing, that's not listed anywhere that we wouldn't know, and so the whole thing had to go, 2 inches or 6 inches, some minor adjustment that really reverse a lot of the work that we had done ahead of time. So maybe meet with the expert first.
Mhm, mhm. Meet with the expert 100% first. I do it every time. I will not ever order anything for any client or even recommend it without knowing it actually can be installed and actually know how they're gonna install it, especially if you've got, like, a rock wall panel, they can be cut and trimmed, but you don't wanna have 2 rock wall panels left over. They're expensive, the shipping's outrageous, so think about how they're cutting it. You're gonna fill the whole wall or not, and, yeah, be very thoughtful about that before rushing into buying anything because it is expensive when you're doing any kind of construction.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Movie Your DNA podcast. It's been wonderful talking with you. Where can people find you and what you offer?
Oh, thanks for asking. So you can go to our website. It's smartplayrooms.com, and you can look at our e-design packages there, all of the products that we've curated there. And if you're interested in a full service, you can reach out just through the contact form and you'll meet our wonderful Jasmine, who's our design concierge, and she'll get you to where you need to be.
Oh, Carrie, thank you so much. And thank you for supporting the Move Your DNA podcast. Like, we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for
You are
taking
so
that
welcome.
risk.
We're so happy to be proud and so proud to be your supporter. So thank you so much for having us.